Hello, I've got Pat from Laid Back Languages as a special guest today, and we're going to compare American and British pronunciations of words. So we're going to compare our accents. So the very first word in American English is vitamin. Vitamin. Pat, how would you pronounce it in England?
So in England, we would say vitamin,
I
vitamin.
love that. Vitamin. Yeah, so the big difference is on the first syllable. Okay, here's another one. Laboratory. Like the mad scientist went into the laboratory. How would you say that?
Laboratory, look, I would say laboratory, laboratory.
I think a lot of Americans recognize the British pronunciation of laboratory, because of the song Monster Mash that gets played during the Halloween season. Apparently, whoever sang that song must have been from the UK because they pronounce it laboratory. And I remember as a little kid thinking to myself, what is a laboratory? How would you pronounce
Oh,
tomato across the pond?
it's an absolute classic, isn't it? Tomato.
Tomato. Excellent. Yeah, if an American were to pronounce it like the British, it would sound really pretentious to us. But of course, coming out of a British person is just totally natural. Okay, the next one, vase. Vase. Like you put flowers in a vase. How would you say that across the pond?
Right. For that one, we would say vase, a vase. So again, I guess it's the vowel sound that's really different, right? You say vase like a, and we say ah. What's
Yeah.
that called in linguistics?
It's a free variation where you can pronounce it either way. So it's just a regional difference. What I find interesting about that word is as well is that the S, I pronounce the S as an S, vase. But what I'm hearing out of you sounds more like a Z. So I'm wondering if that's the French influence since, the UK is so close to France. I wonder if that explains it.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay.
Could be. I've never thought about that. Yeah, the vowel sound is obvious, like the vase, but actually you're right, it's like a z vase instead of
Yeah.
vase. Yeah, there's a big difference, isn't there?
Okay, this is one that I think is kind of another classic. Schedule. Schedule. Like we're going to keep on a schedule. How would you say that in England?
Right. I've just had this conversation with my parents actually because I showed them a couple of the words you might be talking about today with me. And this was the one we had a bit of a debate about. And it's one that I feel I would say as a Brit, schedule. That's what I remember growing
Schedule.
up saying. But my parents, even now, they say schedule. And so do I. I would say schedule a bit more than schedule. It's one of those, if you ask a
Interesting.
Brit, what would you say? You'll get so many variations. And I think it's just because it's one of those words, for whatever reason, that's come back across the pond from the States, and people pronounce it as schedule instead of schedule. But I think schedule is the British way of pronouncing it rather than schedule.
So do you feel that this is a word whose pronunciation is changing in the UK, like it's evolving because of the American influence?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think there are a lot of words that have been influenced by like American English, certainly from YouTube. I think a lot of the kids
Yeah.
nowadays, apparently, my sister works with young children and they got with special needs, right? So a lot of them are autistic, so they just repeat. They have like echolalia, where you kind of repeat things over and over again. And a lot of them speak with American accents, even though
Oh,
they're born and
interesting.
raised in England. Super interesting, but they consume so much like TV, YouTube, or whatever. They speak with American accents. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more of like an American influence in England in general. Like you said, we've got a lot of different accents in the UK, and I'm from the southwest of England. My parents are from Oxford and Cambridge, and I was born and raised in the southwest. So my accent's quite a neutral southern accent with the occasional like farmers are. I don't know what the correct term is, but I call them the farmers are like the like that's the
So
accent in the west.
so let's do a word that ends in an R. So the name Peter. How would you pronounce the name Peter across the pond?
I would say correctly, if I was speaking with a foreign person, I would say Peter, Peter.
Interesting.
If I were to speak to my friends and family, I'd say Peter. I would completely
Okay,
skip the T.
so the way that you pronounce the vowel at the end is also different because you didn't include the R influence in the way that an American would. And so in linguistics, what we call that is a rhotic accent or a non-rhotic accent. I speak with a rhotic accent because I would say Peter, and you can very clearly hear the R at the end. And it sounds like you speak with a non-rhotic accent. Other examples are in Australia. I noticed in Australia that they did not pronounce R's at the ends of words like the way we would in America. So you explained where you're from, and I want to specify specifically where I'm from. So I'm speaking, of course, American English, but I was born and raised in Southern California. I live in Palm Springs. So my accent represents kind of the greater Western area of the United States. There's a lot more linguistic diversity on the East Coast than there is on the West Coast. So when we're comparing our pronunciations, those are the two different locations that we're representing. Okay, so the next word, mobile phone. Mobile phone.
Mobile. We used to call it a mobile phone. Mobile phone.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's interesting. That it
mobile.
sounds like it's
You would never.
predominantly the vowels. Yeah, and I don't think the same is also true over here. You would never hear anybody say mobile phone. If they did, you would instantly know that they're not from here. So that's a good giveaway on both sides of the pond. Okay, so the next word, advertisement, like a commercial, an advertisement. How do you say that in England?
It's another one that I feel is a little bit like schedule and schedule. You will hear people now and again say advertisement,
Uh-huh.
but I've grown up saying advertisement. Advertisement.
I think that's an interesting one because it's not just the sounds that are different, the stress is different too. So here's another one, privacy. Privacy. How in your accent would you pronounce privacy?
I would say privacy. Privacy. However, it's another one of those that sometimes I don't know because I speak to a lot of Americans and I've listened to American media and things online and whatnot. I would say like privacy sometimes, but traditionally I would speak with my friends and family and say privacy. I think privacy is the more English way of saying it. Yeah, but it's another one of those that's kind of come back. We've hit it over to the US and it's kind of coming back now. It's like a boomerang. We've thrown it out and it's coming back, influencing our English. It's very, very interesting. Yeah, but yeah, privacy.
I think it's interesting too that you have that in free variation, meaning that you could pronounce it either way. And I think it's really fascinating how, depending on your audience, like you said, if you're talking with your British friends, you pronounce it differently than if you're talking with an American. That I think is really interesting. Okay, here's a very classic one: water. Water. How would you say that?
Yeah, oh, this is the one that always anyone, as soon as they find out that I'm English, they say a bottle of water, I would say water. Pronounced well, again, we would say water. But like with Peter, wasn't it? Peter,
Yes.
water. We can drop the T, and you'll hear a lot of English people say water, which is where that famous meme comes from, doesn't it? The bottle of water, which I detest, by the way. It's the bane of my life.
Yeah.
But it
I,
is how we speak. We do say it.
I do think that's really interesting too, because you're using a glottal stop when you do that. Kind of like in American English, we use glottal stops when we say like, uh-oh, and things like that, but we don't use it for a T. However, notice I did not say water. I said water. The T turns into an alveolar flap, kind of like a Spanish R, like a single R, like in the word for pear, una pera, that same sound. That's what we use in American English for T's when it's in the middle of the word and the first syllable is stressed. So when I've said water before, I've had British people comment on that. So here's another classic one. Banana. How do you say banana across the pond?
See, it's so strange. I'm becoming painfully aware of like how American people think we're very like posh or well spoken or whatever, but it does sound a little bit posher. Yeah, banana. I would genuinely say that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we call them bananas. That's it. And hearing it side by side, banana. Yeah, for me, banana sounds so much more, I don't know, got common's maybe not the right word, but I can hear like banana. It's very, yeah, like posher. But that's how we say it, yeah, banana.
I feel that it's more similar to French too. When you see the letter A and you say ah, that's what you would do in French. And actually, you do that in, I guess, all the Romance languages, really. And I find it interesting that that tends to happen a lot. When you say ah, I usually say ah. Okay, so here's another one, and you might have to listen. The viewers might have to listen really carefully for this one. Herb. Like I put herbs in my food or in my tea.
Herbs. Herbs. Herbs and spices, yeah, herbs. I forgot you guys say herb. You miss out the H, don't you? What's wrong with
That's
the
right.
H? What have you got against the H there?
I don't know where that comes from, if that's a carryover from French or Spanish, but yeah, we completely ignore the H. It's completely silent to us. Okay, so speaking of the letter H, how would you say the letter H?
H. H. I would say H, but a lot of people say H. A lot of people
Okay.
say H, and I think my dad says H, and it's something my mum like corrects him on. It's not H, it's H. So I think, I have no idea like if this is like a regional thing or what it is really. But yeah, a
I
lot
think
of
that's
people.
interesting.
If you're looking for a difference, it might be that some people say H, but for me, as far as I know, it's wrong to say H. It's H, the letter H, not H.
I find it really interesting because for those of us that say H, like us Americans, that means the name of the letter doesn't actually start with the sound of the letter. So in a way, that other pronunciation kind of makes more sense. But that's not what a lot of people do, and I think it probably is regional. That's my guess for the explanation. So let's talk about another letter, the letter Z. In America, we say Z. What do you say?
Z. Z.
I love that one. I wish that Americans would adopt that. And the reason why is when you're on the telephone and you're spelling out a name, like the word zebra, you might say Z E B. Notice the B and the Z rhyme. Well, so many letters, so many consonants rhyme, B, C, D. It's hard to hear the difference sometimes. So when you say Z, that stands out as different. I feel that that's the better choice. But, obviously we have to speak the dialects that we speak. If I said Z, somebody would take a second look for sure. Speaking of zebra, do you say zebra?
Oh, we do not. I was going to mention that one. Zebra. So Z
Zebra.
and zebra. Yeah, we say zebra.
Interesting.
We'd never say zebra. It's one of the very American sounding words for us. Zebra. We'd be like, oh, you're American. We say zebra. Zebra.
It's a giveaway. Giveaway that I'm American. Okay, so the next one, okay, in American we say project. I'm working on a project. What do you say across the pond?
For a project, like something you plan to do.
Yes. So you say it the same
Okay.
as I do.
Yes. Let me think about this now, because project, like the noun, we would say a project. I've got an important project I'm working on. To project is a verb. When you project something like onto the screen, we'd say project. So I don't know about in the States, like you project something. How would you say that as a verb
Right.
then?
So this is one where we match completely. I say exactly the same thing as you. I say a project, and I'd also say to project. Now, if I was speaking very fast, I would probably turn the verb project into project and just kind of make it an sound, project. But that's only if I'm speaking rapidly. Okay, so this is one where we pretty much match. Okay, so the next one, I learned one of the British pronunciations of this word from an Elton John song. So I'll tell you the American, garage. Like you park your car in the garage. What do you say?
Garage. Garage. Very
That's exactly
important
how
for us. Yeah.
that's
Like
exactly how
garage.
Elton John pronounced it.
Yeah, of course. That's how we say it. And like we have garage music, which is a genre of music in the UK as well.
Music as well. Very interesting to hear it with a different pronunciation because I only associate it with the actual, room that you put your car in. It didn't occur to me that that would be used for the music as well. Interesting. Okay, the next one, something you would find in a drawer in the kitchen, aluminum, like aluminum foil.
Yeah, another classic.
What do you
We say aluminium, aluminium. Very different.
I was recently in Australia and talked to an Australian about that. And they just kind of looked at me and said, well, we say it the way it's spelled. And when I was typing up the notes for this episode and I wrote down aluminum, I initially put it in with an N-I-U-M at the end. And then it gave me spell check line underneath it because, I have it set for American English. And it didn't dawn on me. It's like, okay, it's actually spelled differently certain places too. Okay, so this next word is a word that I've been called out on in videos by Brits who think I pronounce it atrociously. So it'll be interesting to see what you think. Mountain, mountain. Now, if I was speaking slowly, I would change that to mountain. But in fast, rapid, natural speech, I wouldn't say mountain. I would say mountain. What do you say in England?
Mountain, mountain.
So you pronounce the T.
Yes, a word like so. Yeah, mountain. Yeah, to say mountain, you can say it, but it's one of those that even amongst Brits, it's just not very clear. You can get away with it with words such as get. Like
Okay.
you can get away with it. Good example. But with mountain, it's one of those. No, I think if I said mountain, like when I was growing up, if I said mountain, my parents would have picked me
Uh-huh.
up on it. They would have said, pronounce your T's, mountain's not. No, it's one of those words you kind of I draw the line with that. I say the T always with that mountain.
And it's interesting how passionate some Brits are about that word because, like I said, I've been called out on it, and I gave it some thought, and like I can explain it linguistically what I'm doing, but they weren't going to have it. But I find it interesting because no American would ever question the pronunciation of that, but clearly that is the hill that you want to die on in the UK, pun intended. Okay, next word,
I'm good.
dance. Dance. How would you say that in your part of England?
So I would say dance. But like I said, I'm from the south of England, so this is one of those where there would be a difference between how I would say it and how a northerner would say it. They would say it more like dance. Yeah, dance, dance. That R sound is very southern English. Like with grass, for example. I don't know if that was on your list. Sorry if I've jumped one, but
No, it's
grass is
not.
another one.
And it sounds like for some of these words with an A that my American English is closer to the northern part of England.
Yeah,
Interesting.
definitely,
Oh,
definitely. Because they would say grass, grass. Anywhere above maybe like the Midlands, so kind of the middle of England, they start saying ah instead of ah. The grass is, grass, or glass is another one. They would say glass. Up north, glass, 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 and starts getting more R as it gets down south. Glass.
interesting. Yeah, and it
Mm.
speaks to the linguistic variation in the UK. You really have a lot more variety to your different forms of English than we do in the United States. For us, Southern English stands out as different. New York and Boston, those are all areas that have very distinct pronunciations for us. But the rest of the country is pretty similar. Okay, so here's one from the kitchen. Oregano. Oregano. Like I put
Oh,
oregano in my spaghetti sauce.
we would say oregano, which is
That's one
very, very
that's
English.
That one
Oregano.
is, yeah, that one is so different that I have to stop and think when I hear people say it because it's just so different. Although, it's obviously very similar to the way it's spelled, so it makes sense. Okay, we just have a few more. Leisure, leisure. What would you say?
So leisure, as you said, that's one that takes me a couple of seconds, unless I know I'm speaking to an American. If someone says to me leisure, I'm like, is that like is that like a hen injury or something? Yeah, we say leisure. We say leisure. Yeah, leisure
Uh,
is like yeah, it's like a cross between like lesión in Spanish and a seizure for me. So we say leisure.
okay. I'll take leisure over a head injury anytime. Okay, another one from the kitchen. Basil. Basil. What would you say?
Basil, basil,
Interesting.
basil.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've just
Okay.
realized there, speaking about the herbs or the herbs, as we say, a lot of the herbs they've got very different pronunciations, haven't they? And even there's a couple that you use in the States that I'm like, what's that? Like do you use coriander in the States?
No, we say cilantro.
Cilantro. Okay, yeah,
So I have to
cilantro.
assume that that's influence from Mexico because we eat a lot of Mexican food in the United States, especially in California. The word in Spanish, cilantro. So I have the feeling that we got it from Mexico. I haven't actually looked it up, but I'm assuming that's the difference. The first time I heard coriander, I literally didn't even know what it was. Okay,
That's great.
here's another kind of classic. Harassment. Harassment. What would you say?
I would say harassment. So
Ah,
not too different.
okay, so we're
Harassment.
very similar on that.
Yeah, harassment. Yeah, nobody would say harassment or something like that. We wouldn't say that. We'd harassment.
I was kind of expecting you to say something like harassment. So I'm surprised and
Ah,
I
okay.
find it interesting that you pronounce it very similar to the way that I pronounce it. Interesting. Okay, Pat, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me. So please let us know. I know you have a great YouTube channel, Laid Back Languages, but where else can we find you?
Yeah, so like you said, laid back languages for YouTube. I'm on Instagram as well. And my website is www.laidbacklanguages.com. That's where I recommend Everyone go, especially if you're interested in learning French, Spanish, or Italian, and you're learning your first foreign language. I specialize in helping adults learn their first foreign language. I recommend you check it out. And yeah, feel free to follow on Instagram, subscribe to the YouTube channel and whatnot. Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation, man. It's been great fun chatting, as always.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Pat.
Cheers, Andy. Till next time.
Cheers.